when you were talking about feeling a little blue, thinking about your friend and things going on, and reminded me of a Zevon lyric that I often think of. The sky was on fire when I walked to the mill to pick up the slack in the line. And I thought of my friends and the troubles they've had to keep me from thinking of mine.
This is the first time it's the three of us.
I know, it's weird.
Yeah, John's not with us tonight. So yeah, it's an unusual energy. We missed you when you were on the road, so I know we're going to miss John tonight too.
Now I know what it felt like. It makes sense. It's like this weird center of gravity. You know what I mean? Like there's these gravity, these pillars in the convo.
It was weird when you were away.
Very weird. I thought you guys were just like gassing me up.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought you were like, oh, we miss you, you know, and I'm like, oh, guys, that's so cute. But like, no, I get like you actually did. Wow. I miss John, and he's right over there.
Yeah, we've got a man down this Wednesday evening.
But we're a man up as well. Right over here.
Yeah, we do. I don't know, Rory, what the hell's going on right now?
The hell's going on?
We're gearing up for the winter retreat.
For the winter retreat,
yeah. I mean, that's the
I'm cramming work to get everything done before I go. I mastered a record for Los Lobos today, which I got to go and finish when we finish up tonight. And it's really good. And yeah, a bunch of other projects to finish tomorrow. Revisions on a record tomorrow. Get some wine for the trip and wash the car and charge the car and just get ready and sort of it's been a funny week. I texted on the thread yesterday. It took me a minute to recognize what was going on, but I was cranky when I was here last week. Mm-hmm. Like I've had this like furrowed brow tension headache for about a week. I'm good at getting stressed, but I don't get that. I don't get the like classic.
You've evolved.
Tension headache. No, it's no kind of evolution. No. Devolution maybe, I don't know. But I've had that for about a week. And I sort of only just like overlaid it a little bit on what you had been talking about, Spider, in the last, really yesterday. I was like, hey, maybe this is the same thing.
It's big emotions this last week.
Maybe this is maybe this is similar stuff.
Some of the darker side of the lockdown has surfaced in our immediate community in the last week, and it's been a bit of a heavy reminder of how much we need each other and the responsibility we all have to each other.
Yeah.
And it's all been kind of weighing on me in a good way. I mean, I'm like I was saying on my live on Monday night, it's like the more I lean into that responsibility, the sort of more energized I get. But there's also this sort of, I don't know, it's like when the decisions you make and the things you do matter to other people, it's just that, I don't know, man. You don't want to fuck up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's a little bit of this open-hearted thing,
kind of,
that we've talked about.
It's that responsibility piece mixed with commitment piece. Like you're committing to people and you're responsible for not completely their well-being, but sources of information, but
perceiving our well-being is sort of in that more collective way.
Right.
It is in a way like we are for each other a piece of the well-being puzzle. You know, it's not as if we're on islands and then we link up. It's sort of it's ongoing and intrinsic. It's what we are. You know, it's not something you can really retreat from, right? Once you make these commitments, you know, it's up to you to then edit them if they're not right for you or whatever, and to you know, reform agreements with people. But that's not what we're getting at. We're just getting at some, like, a lot of the feedback that we're getting is very deep. It reaches me deeply. You know, I'm moved by some of the feedback we're getting. And, you know, I'm having sort of grandiose ideas about new institutions in our field, and the role that institutions play in the development of individuals. I think about young people. I think about teenagers expressing an interest in audio engineering of any kind. It could be broadcasting football games. It's just, how do people find their way in, and how are they guided? Like, what are the forces at play that shape their career and have a large role in the quality of their lives? And I think about the institutions we have sort of on the record making side, and I don't see the guidance. Like, I don't see, the voices having an impact on the ground, in the rooms with the kids. I see people being misled by a system that's full of perverse incentives. I don't mean to go on a monologue right now, but that's sort of, that's sort of like the weight that is in the air at the moment. It's, it hasn't been a joyous week. It's been good, but it's, it's sort of, I think, like the pain that we're being made more aware of now, caused by this global crisis. It's just closing in. Yeah. I've had a close family member pass away last week from COVID. He's a sort of honorary family member. I personally didn't know him well, but my parents did. And they grew up with him, and sort of honorary cousin, uncle status. And he had a studio in Santa Monica. I have no idea what he was doing, probably something with a church and that sort of thing. And I can only imagine what that rig was like. He was a 75-year-old man, But yeah, I mean, the waves are breaking close to the house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the numbers.
And so the gravity of the situation, the stakes of us not finding a way to come together and really and form a meaningful connection as a community where we're mutually invested in each other's well-being. It's not going to get easier. We have to organize. Like, we have to take steps if we're going to do it. It's not going to happen on its own. There are too many forces pulling us apart.
Well, it's one of these problems that the market doesn't solve. The market is not. The market is not served by community. It has interest in the opposite.
In a superficial way, it is, but not in the meaningful sense.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure in the superficial
It's a facsimile of community.
Yeah,
or whatever this sort of brand loyalty.
Yes, brand loyalty. A pool of people to sell to. People who are in the fan club, but that's not a community. It's a different thing. So
you need investment. You need mutual investment. You need stakes.
Yeah, this
to bring out the best in us. To unlock what we're capable of.
It's interesting. Just as we were rolling, Dylan asked, "Does anyone want to eulogize Rupert Neve?" And my response was, nah. But it actually ties into a point that I was with a friend this week. We were talking about his passing, and when you're interested in electronics and people who work at all these companies that Rupert was involved in, way more of the story.
Sure.
About who did what and when they did it, and where the designs really came from and all that kind of stuff. But what we landed on in our conversation was just how, and it's these themes, Spider, that you and I have been exploring because of the stuff that you too, Michael, stuff that we've been reading and watching, but this Jordan Peterson stuff and the Scruton stuff and the other stuff that we're taking in right now, these fundamental human needs and the sort of deification of people like Rupert Neve, whether they deserve it or not, but this sort of idolizing, this sort of elevating of people to this sort of perch of importance. We need those people. It's just so often the people who are elevated aren't actually deserving of it. And as I joked with my friend the other night, I should probably wait for the guy's body to get cold before I sort of say stuff like this. But it's not any kind of disrespect. It's just that, when you look at the sort of outpouring it's an outpouring of a community that needs people to look up to and doesn't have them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so you're sort of latch on to these sort of myths and stories that are very tenuously linked to reality. And you know, I imagine that Rupert's impact in his churches and the things that he was involved in through his religion were probably great. You know, he was a very devout Christian, and but what was interesting to me is just how people get elevated to this status because we need those people in our lives. We're looking for leadership. We're looking for guidance. We're looking for inspiration, and quite often the people who we elevate are not all that.
It touches on a few things. You mentioned brands and building community, and obviously he's just as much a brand as he is a person. And it to me, it speaks to the responsibility that we have, either running businesses that are outputting things into the world or non-for-profits putting things out into the world. Like I think it's the recognition of that responsibility that often gets overlooked. It's like, well, we could sell things and people buy it, and so our work here is done. And it's a very transactional nature, and I think even more so now with COVID and you know, everyone panicking about money. It's like, let's get a sale.
Yeah,
let's not think about the community, and you know, I think it's accelerating that sort of perspective. But at the same time, that's kind of what we're investing in. Pushing against.
That's something I've been aware of for a long time because I came up, you know, my first job was working in bike stores selling bikes. I was selling bikes to people when I was 15, repairing bikes. And then I had worked in record stores and then instrument stores, and then I had my own record store. So I did a lot of sales for many, many years, and selling stuff is easy for me. Selling ideas, you know, selling what we do with Unfuck, it's easy, you know. And you have to be aware that you don't sort of get wrapped up in the sound of your own voice or the sort of the lure of the sale,
right.
That you really are serving people. So quite a long time ago, I had some experiences where I sort of realized that like I was doing that. I was sort of enjoying the power of it, of being a good salesperson, and sort of like checking myself. I'm like, hey, wait a second. You're building a story here that maybe isn't.
Right. It's like just because you can.
Yeah, and just because it sounds good and feels good. And it's like a musical improvisation. You're kind of riffing, and not with any sort of malintent, but there's definitely a responsibility there. And
it's like sometimes there's no intent other than to make the sale. You know.
Yeah, and I lost interest in that a long time ago. I mean, you know, just and the gig with PMC for years, a lot of it was about sales, and it was like. Right. It was definitely sort of one of the things that was sort of key for me to move away from, you know. And that isn't to say that selling is dirty or wrong, or you can, you know, Seth Godin is great on this about sales and marketing, that you really can serve people through that work.
Right.
You just have to be sort of aware of your motives and what you're trying to achieve. And
it's exactly,
you know, I had a conversation with a client this morning, a long conversation while I walked, about his new studio, and he wants to spend quite a lot of money. And it's like, well, we'll walk this path with you, and we'll help you make great decisions if it all makes sense. If this is, you know, and I threw out some numbers. I was like, if you come to us and say you want to spend this and your business doesn't support it, we're not interested in helping you make a bad decision that you'll regret later, even if it's good for us in the short term. Because that's not in any way sustainable.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And he got it. He respected that, you know?
Yeah. Like
so
that.
yeah, it's been, I'm with you, Spider. It's been a funny week, and I've been sort of going between being very cranky and furrowed browed, and then doing some really good work in the studio, weirdly, finding a real flow in even with some scheduling challenges, and like knocking out some masters that I'm really happy with, and being super grateful for my girls and my wife, and then like going back to feeling sorry for myself and being like, you know.
Can we unpack this a little bit on air? Like,
I mean, I don't know.
You guys had mentioned it in the chat, but I didn't know what was going on. I was concerned. I even reached out to Sydney. I was like, is everything all right? Like,
yeah, I don't really know what it is yet, but I mean, I just sort of connected.
Is it about the retreat?
Might be. might be a little bit of that, a little bit.
We're going to see you in your underwear kind of thing.
Is it the infinity pool that's
I
getting
look
you down?
pretty great.
I mean, we haven't been like locker room friends yet. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not. I don't have locker room issues. I'm good with it. I wasn't blessed on the physique front, but I've made peace with that a long time ago.
But but seriously though, like, what's up?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know, and I've been just a little bit too busy to meet it and sort of and spend the time and not.
Yeah, that's what I see. You're sort of noticing it. You're sort of curious about it, but it's not. You're not embodying it.
No, I really haven't had time. You know what I mean? And you're trying to be available. I've had 2 friends going through some very rough times, and showing up for them, was like a very meaningful amount of hours. But also, I'm a super sensitive person. Even our conversation last week, that was really powerful.
How do you not internalize?
I'm really
that?
glad,
especially now that we're sort of like we're reaching these sort of levels of openness.
Yes,
as we do this podcast, and we do this sort of work, it's like we are deliberately sensitizing ourselves. And then as you open yourself to it, it's like, well, the old coping mechanisms can creep in before you see them, or you can be internalizing things without really even knowing it.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, obviously the practice of awareness is.
Yeah. For me, I'm not, I mean, for me, I would word it differently. I'm not sensitizing myself. I'm being myself in public. So it's like I'm being my authentic, sensitive self in a more public way. But just with my friends that have needed some help, what I'm sort of aware of is that my life isn't organized. I don't have enough bandwidth to help take care of other people, do the work we're doing, take care of myself, do my work, take care of my family. It's just like, there's just not enough hours in the day. So that's an ongoing project of sort of managing that and sort of eliminating the conflicts and the. I mean, we just did it this week on our weekly sync. It's like, schedule the meetings here. Okay, workshops go here. This is better. Okay, we'll move that to this day. So it's all those optimizations that help sort of remove these crunchy moments where it's like, hey, it's like yesterday. It's like I'm about to start that record that I was working on today, and my wife's a little off in the morning. She's not feeling great, and then it's like by mid-morning she's really not feeling great. It's like, okay, so what's the thing we all think is like COVID? Okay, so we're all getting in the car and driving for a COVID test as a family, and work that was supposed to start at 11 starts at 4, 5, 6, whatever, and sort of then goes into the evening, and then it's great. I'm home. I'm available. I can do it. I work for myself. I can do that, but it's
the blessing and curse.
The flexibility.
The flexibility is.
I was just talking with Maurice on the way here in the car, and it's like there is no grandma in town. There's no sister. We don't have that kind of support. I mean, you very kindly, Spider, said that if we needed help this week, you were around. If it did end up being whatever, but we are we're just out here. So it's So yeah, I think the main thing I'm having, I think all of the stuff that I'm feeling is quite, none of it is like sort of unusual. I think it's just feeling heavy stuff and not quite having the bandwidth to process. So like
accumulation.
If we weren't going to the desert this weekend, I would probably bump a few projects and try and take some time over the weekend. It's like, and the weekend will be great, so I'm not worried. I bumped something to next week. The workload I have between here and when I go is significant, but doable.
Is it a familiar weight that you're carrying? Like, is this a repeating pattern?
No, this is different. What I'm feeling right now.
Okay.
Well, the physical manifestation of it is very different. It's very unusual for me.
Higher stress?
Yeah, just a kind of a forehead, like clenchy kind of feeling. I don't.
Are your prescription current? Is your prescription lenses, are they current?
Probably not as good as they should be. They're not a million miles, but they're not as good as they should be. So yeah.
Well,
Are you zoomed in on work? Are you zoomed out? Are you kind of switching modes? Is it like a context switching thing?
There's all sorts of switching because I mean you're going from
there's been context switching all day for years.
yeah. That's
Is it
That's
just
not
more
novel.
projects with context switching? Like that's what I mean. It's a familiar weight. I mean, it seems like this is something the context switching is familiar. Is it?
yeah. I mean that's what I'm trying to sort of engineer out of my life
Yeah.
is and create more
Right.
times when I'm just in one mode, you know.
And in terms of the winter retreat, I mean, that's an exciting thing. I think there's essentially limitless opportunity at this point. We're going to talk about it tomorrow, you and I, about sort of some structure that we could bring to get more value out of it. But what is your current thinking on that?
My current thinking is to trust that it will be great, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna improvise with you on the phone tomorrow, and sort of like react because you've got more energy right now. You know, we were chatting last night, and I'm going to react to your things and sort of be open to what you say, and just sort of trust that if we go, I mean, the whole point of the thing was we go with the people that we're committed to a place where we turn off our phones as much as we can, and we have space, physical and emotional and mental space to. There's no girlfriend coming over. There's no kids need to be put to bed. It's just like for this period of time, we're in it, and there's almost no escape.
Right.
So I'm just sort of trusting that it'll be great. It's the right idea.
So that's not the cause of your brow for
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe along the lines of what Spider said, the sort of the increasing commitment. It's like, you know, I don't know that I've spent 26 Wednesdays doing anything in my life. You know, I mean, probably working in the studio, but other than that, I mean, I haven't had, you know, with the potential with the COVID test yesterday and the fact that I may not have had a result tonight, it was like, hey guys, I might do this remote. And I was like, that'd be the first Wednesday in 26 weeks I haven't sat at John's table. That's a half a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exactly half a year. Yeah. So,
it's almost like an identity piece. Like, am I the person that sits at this table weekly or sits at a table or follows a routine weekly? Like, is there a piece of you that doesn't feel like it like an imposter syndrome kind of thing, or, you know, like where this is both an amazing opportunity yet uncomfortable because it's not the norm, it's not the standard thing?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm pretty comfortable with it. I mean, I'm nervous about it sometimes, but I think I'm comfortable. I would jettison all the other stuff happily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the family, but you know, I would definitely like to reinvent other stuff. But this, the heart of what we're doing, I feel really good about. And
then Spider, you were talking about a weight as well. I'm just wondering where you guys are at before we begin.
No, I mean, I think I described it. I mean, it's just the sort of weight of what's possible as we watch things grow. You know, there is something, you know, if you can have a relationship with one person and you can have a mutual investment, you know, like if you're mentoring a young person, you realize you're having an impact on them. If it's 1,000 people, it just registers differently, you know?
Registers with you differently? Or
the implications change. You know, because you have trust with someone. It's a two-way street, right. And when it's no longer a two-way street and people are getting a lot of benefit, it just registers differently.
Yes.
Yeah, doing anything at scale has always proven to be a challenge, for sure, in any form.
And look, I'm not saying at all it's giving me pause or, well, it is giving me pause in some way, but it's not a dark feeling. It's a kind of power. Yeah. That, you know, there's this certain hesitation that I've had around leadership, and it was a problem for my band that disintegrated, you know, 25 years ago or 20 years ago. And, you know, I'm not a great manager, right? But I do envision things. You know, I can, inspire people. I can rally people.
Yes.
And really, it's a kind of second chance in a way to show up the way I need to show up. You know, to fulfill the commitments.
Yeah.
And to move my own game forward. And so, I don't know. It just, I mean, there's a lot of old shit that's been coming up lately. It's just, I don't know, man. It's a very emotionally powerful time. It has nothing to do with retrograde anything or any cosmic. I'm not going to make any cosmic claims. It's just like a season of reflection. And I mean, I don't understand it, any more than that.
Yeah. I think that's excellent. We do have a guest today.
We do.
Our guest tonight is our good friend Noah Snyder, scoring mixer, not just a scoring mixer, you make records too, a scout leader, as we'll come to learn. I met Noah through Spider originally, and haven't met many people in the business who are more thoughtful and committed to their opinions and their ideas.
We've been talking for about 20 minutes now. Noah, is there anything you want to touch on that we were talking about? Any riffs you'd like to go on?
I mean, I was just going to ask if I could treat the whole intro as sort of my first question, or if that's acceptable.
Yeah, you're allowed to ask first.
Go there, man. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot about communities sort of lost and potentially gained here in this COVID thing has been painful. The most painful part for me has been the loss of community, and both with respect to my work community and not collaborating with the people I'm used to collaborating with all the time, and also with you guys, your weekly thing. You got to understand that maybe I need to get to this first. Like, that's a community gained, and that's like a deeply beautiful thing. I mean, I can't express it enough. And the commitment to be there every night, every Wednesday, Rory, like that's what it's about. And you show up and you bring yourself because of your commitment to the whole thing, not because of what you have to do on Wednesday, a given Wednesday. Maybe there's eggs that need to be bought, or a Los Lobos master that needs to be finished, which, I got to say, I love that band.
Yeah,
They're pretty great.
I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah.
So, for me, one of the communities I lost was my Tuesday night community. And you guys know I have a Tuesday night community, and that's my son's Boy Scout troop.
Yes.
Right. And so for years now, I've been going every Tuesday, whether I was mixing or whatever I was doing, cutting out from Capitol, driving all the way from Hollywood to the Palisades to get to the Boy Scout meeting, And so part of what I've learned through that is the repetitive showing up, the repetitive being committed to that thing when you're not sure you're feeling it that day or what it is. It becomes something that is so important in your life. It becomes like the rudder for it. And what I found, because I was scared, like, can I cut out of here on Tuesday nights? Sometimes we got a lot of work to do, and my career has not been spent doing that. So it was new. But what I found was that I came in Wednesday morning, I was killing it. My week was so much more productive because I left on Tuesday night. And so that thing you guys are making now is to be held close and dear. The more you give to it, the more it gives back to you, and it becomes an exponential thing. For me, it did, where you can't possibly give what you're getting back. You can't. What you're getting back is so enormous.
Is this the opening or the closing of the episode? This is, thank you for that, honestly.
Beautiful.
It's so easy to get caught up in the logistics and all our tasks and every responsibility, and good or bad. Yeah. And it's a really nice reminder to hear that. I'm very, very curious about Boy Scouts and what it has taught you about leadership and about community.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the second
And
thing
young people.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to tell
young
you. And that's the thing that Spider, you're already talking about. Ethical leadership. It's not just leadership. It's ethical leadership. That's the kind of leadership you're teaching, you know? And so you're looking for that leadership, not finding it, Rory not finding it in the person who's put up on display as the person to emulate, because we don't know, you know, I know a lot about what it takes to have staying power in this industry for that period of time, you know, and it's a credit to the man, you know, for sure. But if there isn't some dead bodies behind him, it would be an incredible aberration, you know. And so sometimes, yeah, and I'm not, this isn't about any particular person, to be honest. The point is just that having real leadership that you can identify as being ethical so that you know you can follow that, you know? And so, and so for you as a leader now, Spider, yourself as a leader, so like that's what you have to demonstrate. That's what you're demonstrating to the community. That's why people respond the way they do and want to be led, because they're responding to a genuine thing. And they can feel comfortable and safe and indeed, you know, good about being involved with that.
Touching on ethical leadership, I love that term. Is that a phrase inside of, or a term inside of the Boy Scouts? Like, is that a specific thing, or is that?
I mean, shout out to our Scoutmaster, 80-plus-year-old Mike Lanning, who has graduated more Eagle Scouts than anyone ever. He talks a lot about it. I don't know. He's my entree to Boy Scouts, you know. So our leader, he talks about it, ethical leadership, and we teach it. We teach ethical decision making.
How does one teach it?
I mean, it starts simple, just like you'd think, you know. Asking a group of kids, what do you do when you find a wallet and it's got money in it, or some such situation, and you start with something you know that they know the answer to, and the point is to say, hey, we all agree about this.
To demonstrate the agreement out in the open,
and shared values, man. Shared values. This is how we operate here. And an acknowledgement the whole world might not operate that way.
Sure.
But that here that's valued. And that you'll be judged here on that basis, you know?
What does judgment look like in an environment of ethical leadership?
Yeah, it's swift. Like, but there's you know, if you mess up, for example, if you go online and bully someone, this was something that happened. You know, so you get brought in front of the whole troop, which is an embarrassing thing. You know, it's a lot of kids. You got to go up. You got to own it. You got to say, I messed up. I made a mistake in judgment. I did this. I wouldn't recommend doing it. The Scoutmaster comes in front of everybody and says, we're never going to talk about this again. Okay? And that's it.
So forgiveness and high stakes and accountability.
Yeah, and he'll have to do something. You know, I mean, there'll be a price to pay. You're going to end up with some community service or whatever. You know, it's not going to be a horrible punishment.
Sure.
But the punishment is public, swift, and ended.
Decisive.
Yeah, ended. Not to be spoken about anymore. Not to be gossiped about.
Usually when John's here, he would tie this into engineering. But since he's not, how have you translated this project and this work into your profession?
Yeah, so leadership looks like a lot of different things in different situations. For my job, as you guys, you know, I know you talked to Greg last week and I listened and it was a great chat. Our efforts tend to be pretty big ensemble efforts on the films I work on, which is the bulk of my work. So there's a lot of characters involved who got to be pulling in the same direction. and got to know their role and deliver on time and all those things. And it's under high stress. And so for me, what I've learned, it's about making the atmosphere I want to make in the situation I can control in that control room, which is, my sphere of influence. So being a scoring mixer is more than just hanging mics and making cool mixes. There are a lot of complicated things involved. You got a lot of people you got to keep happy and serve their concerns and needs honestly and effectively. At the same time, without excluding any of them, the director, the composer, who's really ultimately the one getting you hired, but the studio, they're the ones paying you. There's a lot of people you got to keep happy, And so what I try to do is protect my crew, my guys, to put them in a sphere where they're protected from all of that. I handle that stuff. They don't worry about the director or the producers, or they worry about what we got to get done. And our mission, which is usually, really with the composer. Sometimes the director's involved, but mostly it's with the composer, And so I just want each of them to be able to do what they do well. I mean, these guys are ridiculous. They're like ninjas or, beautiful birds in the forest that only eat out of one flower, they're so specialized in what they do. Not that they're not widely capable, but what they do, what I need them to do is so specialized. And what they're so good at is so specialized that I just want to make the flower available for them at the right temperature and humidity and stuff, so that they can dine at the flower and
enjoy it.
And what that means is it's not just beautiful for me to watch, but then I get my thing served up and it's been tended to, with the utmost care, the best guys in the world had the perfect place and not just physically, but emotionally and in terms of how I'm telling them they're valued, and in terms of what I want them to worry about, what I don't want them to worry about, what I'm going to let, what heat is going to come and what heat is not going to come for them. Heat's not going to come for them with me in between. That's not going to happen. So for me, leadership is putting guys in a situation to succeed.
That's it, setting the conditions. We talk about this role of the traditional record producer in exactly these terms. And it also sounds like as a score mixer, you are almost playing a managerial role, like running defense and that management side of it. I mean, I've been around. I've witnessed your sort of rabid protection of this sphere of this ecosystem that you've cultivated, and it's definitely inspiring, your commitment to it. And I know the guys appreciate it. You can see that in the work. You can see that in their demeanor, the way they talk about you.
Yeah, well, you become invested. Again, it's the same thing. You become invested in something where everybody feels like they're getting more than they're giving.
That's it.
I'm walking in and I'm like, I can't believe how good, how well tended to everything is. You guys are, hey, would you do that? Oh, wait, it's already done. It's just like, you guys, you're the best at what you do. It's ridiculous.
How long would you say it took you? Because I know you've built this over time. Maybe intentionally, not intentionally. How long did it take you till you felt like, yeah, we're in the zone here?
Well, I mean, I spent time in the trenches, and not commanding operations on many missions, meaning working in roles that were where I wasn't in charge,
Sure.
And I certainly knew how I didn't want it to be, intimately. And knew how I did want it to be. I mean, that's not fair to say it in the inverse like that. Through my experiences, I had seen atmospheres that I thought were wildly positive and conducive to making art, and I saw ones that I felt were toxic, and but it's a little more than that, because I don't think it has to I don't think it has to be pain. I don't subscribe to the idea that it has to be painful to make something great.
Yes.
Yeah, some days it might be, and I won't exclude the possibility that it might be painful, but I don't think that that's a prerequisite.
No.
So if somebody tells me they're always working around the clock, you guys were talking about this last week. Oh yeah, we're always doing it. I literally, I don't say it, but usually what I think is, man, are you guys not good at it?
Yeah, either you're lying or you're not good at it.
Yeah. What's the story?
Yeah.
Every time you have to work 16-hour days? Every time?
Right.
You can't plan ahead of that? You can't? Because I know what kind of work you're doing in hour 15.
Yeah.
Let's face it, guys.
You just
especially
mentioned,
on day 9.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Michael.
You mentioned these like toxic environments versus like environments of inspiration. Can you, in your words, state the difference of those? Like, what does that look like? What do you find is like the optimal environment for creativity, for performance?
Well, I can tell you this, that I'll tell you an anecdote. When I was first starting out and I was in the back of the room with some menial responsibility, one of the first scoring sessions I went to was with a scoring engineer named Bobby Fernandez. Wonderful guy. He was on staff for Warner Brothers for many years, and then freelance, and did 1 billion movies that everybody in the world knows.
Right.
Wonderful guy. And what I noticed about him was that he was the calmest guy in the room. And so fires would, oh my God, there's 7 saxophones coming and a marching band and da-da-da-da-da-da, and, everybody's freaking out because there's some unexpected whatever. And Bobby's just like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. We can handle that, And immediately I knew, right? Like, I was like, I want to be that dude. Like, I want to be the guy calming everybody down. Because once that energy went away, then the music making happened.
So
and there's a lot. It's hard. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot to be worried about. There's a lot of moving parts, even in your single singer session.
Sure.
There's plenty. As the headphones are going to mix everything. When it works and it's working, then you can make music.
So that was a practice. That was something you consciously said, I want to be like this guy. I want to navigate the room in this way.
I want to manage emotions in this way.
Yeah. And so were you working on that? Like, is that something you're like, even to this day, is this something you're conscious of, you're like working on, or is like,
For sure. I mean, it's something you don't win every battle, You have bad days and good days.
Uh-huh.
And those same wonderful guys I work with over on Mixes and C could tell you about days I walked in and blew up, not at them, but mad at some unreasonable expectation that had been put upon us or whatever. It's a continuum, but I recognize the value in that effect on the process. And I've also, I can't recommend enough as an experience builder, just being able to sit in on stuff, sitting in the back of the room, because I learned a lot. And I was lucky. I was sitting in the back of the room in some big rooms that were big things were happening. And so I learned a lot.
So you touched on calm, a sense of calm in the room. Are there any other things you gleaned from high-performing rooms?
Yeah, I think that, I'm sure that there must be people who work better tense, to put it, to
I had an anesthesiologist who was all pissy. The surgeon was late. And I'm laying on the table and he's all pissy and I'm like, we all right here? He's like, don't worry, I'm better this way. I'm sharper. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people like to work in that zone of contentiousness, you know? It's true.
It gets the hormones up and focus and you know, whatever it does for them.
It gives you some adrenaline and whatnot. And I have clients, although I don't think I work with anyone who thrives on contentiousness. I do, you know, I have worked with some people who thrive on like some chaos.
Yeah, making chaos.
But the reality is, I think that, you know, you end up, that's my skill. That's the thing I can do. I'm not going to help the situation by being a nervous wreck. I mean, it's going to really derail it. If I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve, as I always do, and what I'm thinking is, oh man, I don't know if this is going to work. Like they're going to have some concerned customers, you know?
Okay. So you've
And I've seen that. I've seen guys with bad mojos, you know, jonesing everyone out, making them concerned about the outcome.
It's very contagious, in a room.
Yeah. I've just seen sessions get completely derailed by engineers who were obsessing on bad things, on measurements and fear and then that once that goes around and you've got people there, the filmmakers, who, not the composer, not the music editor, but the director and the producers, they've been working on this movie for 2 years. Mm-hmm. They had a script they picked out 4 years ago. They picked the actors. They've been working on this thing for a long time. They got tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in this thing. And you can't
you can't put brakes on the flywheel.
Yeah, it's a tremendously disruptive energy.
And on the musician side, on the creative side, these people are living, breathing antennae for emotions. So if you're outputting stress, these people are feeling it even more than the average human, because that's what they're designed to do. That's who they are. They're people who translate emotions into their work. So you're going to have a problem if you're putting that into even if it's a one-on-one with a singer or with an orchestra.
String section is just 40 singers, you know.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
it really is, you know. And you got to make them feel like you're going to take care of them, and they can feel comfortable that everything's under control. It's a funny
thing with orchestras, that sort of strange. They're a singular unit. They're a single organism, and it's composed of a bunch of people who got stuck in traffic or are having a bad day or are trying to one up each other or are jealous or sleeping with each other's partners, whatever. They're humans on that podium playing, but then there's a mode where they become one, or hopefully become one. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I think though that, and now it's going to come under the microscope a little bit because of the COVID and doing weird mixes where I'm delivered from a bazillion musicians. I think that those little differences within the people within the section, the one who just is having a lazy morning and is a little bit back, and the one who's feeling quiet and just is a little quieter or whatever, that all adds up to the soup. That's the thing, that's the sound of the section. And that kind of gives it its character in a way. Like, you don't want them to totally tuned in to exactly the same thing, you know, to some degree. You've got to have
it's crowd-like sound. Like if we can record 100 Rorys in a room, but if we get a bunch of different voices, it'll sound more chaotic and less phasey. But
so that you consider that the humans in the orchestra, that those dynamics to be sort of part of the high wire, part of what gives it a little risk, a little danger, a little change, a little texture, color.
I think that, that it definitely is part of it. And like I said, in the spirit of always learning, which we always are, receiving these 24 individual violin files recorded by 24 violin players at their homes, and being able to really examine how each of them is interpreted, the dynamics, the pitch, the rhythm, and to see like there's it's pretty broad. I mean, in a way, it might be wider than you think. And look, they don't. I expect it's wider than normal because they're by themselves, and if they were hearing each other, they fall in with each other, and they respond to the conductor, etc. Still, I can't help but feel illuminated in the fact that there's a lot of variation in there, and that some people, when they put an accent on it, they make it poke out 20%. Some people like it's accented like, whoa, quite a lot, heavy accent, it's almost a forte piano,
There's an interesting parallel there. Like the richness of that sound has something to do with the diversity of the individual sources. It's, I don't
like
know.
a
There's something poetic in there.
Yeah.
Is there I guess the future of sampled strings is that we'll give each sample string a virtual life. It'll live in a simulator and it'll get stuck in traffic. Yeah, it'll
have low blood sugar.
Your third violin will be going through a divorce.
You're right, though.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when it's going to get really good, it's not going to be a sample at all. It's going to be a generation
synthesized
of the sound. Synthesized
under
sound.
those,
with that
those
kind of a
parameters.
thought.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this arc, Noah, of you sort of seeing what's happening in those rooms, having a role model such as Bobby Fernandez and others, adopting certain ideas or, sort of having some kind of direction that you want to take. And then you build a team and a sort of momentum so that you're, mixing at Capitol and Studio C and things are sort of running. People are feeling good. Like, what is that time span?
Decade plus at least.
It's like 10, 15 years of trying to engineering a circumstance where everyone can do great work. Now, when's the last session you guys all did together?
We were working in February, before the shutdown in March. The last time we were all together in a room like that, doing that kind of thing.
Doing the thing.
Yeah, so it would have been February. It's a movie that still hasn't come out, a Danny Elfman score for The Woman in the Window, which was going to be released. I mean, this is the story of my last year. It was going to be released by Fox and then got sold to Netflix, and it hasn't been released. I'll tell you what, it's a good film. It's got kind of a Hitchcock vibe. It was much more enjoyable than I expected. I hate to tell you this, but it's better than most of what's coming out on streaming every week, which are like kind of not that well-crafted films, I hate to tell you. But so I don't know. I don't know what happened to that movie. But that was the last time we did it.
So you guys haven't worked in a year. And what have your conversations with the team been like since? I mean, how are you guys all coping, and like what's the outlook? I mean, what are you guys facing as a team?
Yeah, I mean, it's things are sputtering now. Or simmering maybe. There's some work that comes around. There's just not enough filming production happening to keep us busy in the way that we've been accustomed to, that we're lucky to have been accustomed to. It looks different for everybody. It's a hard road to hoe. For some of those guys have been quite busy. So like like a lot of COVID things, it's cuts uneven. So
yes.
They just have been at home, you know.
Yeah.
But prepping files and editing and doing all that stuff. I know, there were some productions going on that were we're keeping them busy. So I think that mostly they're doing okay, although, you know, we'd all like to be doing our thing together in the way that we are accustomed to, you know.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing what you've been doing to kind of maintain this mental health and positive outlook as much as you can during this time.
Yeah. Well, whatever I can, I've been doing. I've been keeping up with my physical wellness, which I think is important. And early on, I was so stressed out. I got some really ruthless crick in my neck, basically muscle spasm, something in my upper back. And I then just was having trouble finding anything that was helping it. And I wasn't sleeping a lot. And so I started doing daily yoga at that point. I've done a little yoga over my life. But anyway, so now I've done darn near, I've been doing it nearly 300 days now, nearly every day. So that helps me a lot. I go for long walks often, like 4 or 5 mile, 6 mile walks. I go fishing when I can by myself or with a couple crazy like-minded fishermen who like to, we're part of a elite group called the Black Diamond Trout Society. So we are fishing for trout in places that no one else wants to go because they're just too difficult to get into. So it involves.
How far are we? Are we talking Montana, where you?
No. This is this is
Yeah.
California adventures mostly. Yeah.
All right.
But extreme hikes.
Bringing back memories of my dad. Yeah, my dad is an avid fisherman his whole life, and that was always his favorite fishing spots were, of course, ones that no one else could get to, or very few other people would bother getting to, crossing these gnarly bogs. And I have this memory of as a kid of. Do you know what a bog is when I say bog? Is that a thing here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. But I remember he used to run along because there was no sports in my family. Like we didn't do sports, any of us as kids, and which was fine. But going fishing with my dad as a kid, you would see him like just sort of bouncing along this bog and jumping from tuft of grass to tuft of grass, and then he would at one point he had his waders on and he stopped and said, he was just kind of saying, be careful, but have fun, And he was saying, this one here, watch this. And he pulls his wader right up to his groin, up to his hip. And he puts his leg down into it, basically up to his waist. And was like, that's you. That's your whole kid-sized body. You're below the muck, So it was one of those things as a kid, you're like wide-eyed, like, holy shit, okay, this is dangerous. We're doing dangerous stuff. And you would go to these fishing spots that were just, immaculate, and nobody else would go there because it was too much work or just a little further than another dude was willing to walk. And we're talking about yoga and meditation and stuff, all the stuff at the table, and kind of I fancy myself as being high-minded. And then I think my dad was doing this shit when I was 5. He was.
Yeah, it's so meditative.
Yeah, he had his own.
And you're not after fish at that point. You're after something else,
Yeah. There's so few fish relative to the amount of hours spent.
It's not about
there's
that.
a fish section at the store. You
want
fish. Yeah,
correct. Well, and then what happens is what I find. I like fly fishing, and so fly fishing, you got all this line up in the air. It's hard to really think about anything else. It's a moment of Zen, sort of meditative. I hate to use that cliche, but
sure.
It's a meditative thing where there's no space in your mind for other thoughts. You're trying to figure out how to keep this line in the air, and it takes quite an act of, to do it. But I've had just incredible insights out there that come to you at weird times. And, I like to fish in rivers, and so it's all these freestone rivers where there's rocks about, and so there's all these different currents, multiple currents, and they crisscross and they join and they meet up and they separate and and it's complicated to get your thing to land and not be disturbed by this current while it's interacting with that current. And then I started to realize that sound waves are like pretty much, and water waves, it behaves a lot like sound waves. And I'm thinking about the orchestra and the sections and all the flows of the currents are like streams of sound from 80 instruments, you know? And suddenly I'm understanding something I never understood before about the interplay, the resulting current, when the two meet,
the interference
and
patterns
the new one is made.
Yeah.
And when you're recording that, and when you're recording the main one, and when you want the one way back here that barely even has
instead of putting the
trace
fly
of
in the
that
river,
current,
you're putting the mic in the current.
it just
placing
became
it.
a giant analog for an orchestra session.
That's
you know?
beautiful, man.
And
Yeah.
and I think that I learned from that. I really do. And I think that it made me think about mic placement and just about how the sound's moving around in a room, maybe even gobo placement or placing the musicians themselves, which is even, sort of step one.
We have a very peculiar obsession with putting things into our brain, taking in information, reading, learning, watching, and not letting our brains just bubble and crackle and sort of do the things that brains are supposed to do while you're walking across the savannah with your spear in your hand. We're not leaving room for that anymore in our lives. I mean, I was talking with a friend the other night talking about podcasts, and it's like, I listen to podcasts in the shower now. That was like the last place where I would stand for 10 minutes uninterrupted, really thinking. And now it's like, well, now I'm putting stuff into my brain there too. Not every time, but often. Because I have stuff I want to catch up on, stuff I'm interested in, stuff I'm trying to learn. But I'm not leaving. I mean, I will say I started doing that as I started walking more. So I am taking walks where I do deliberately not put something into my brain. But I think we all need more of that in our lives. Just time for stuff to come back out.
Yeah,
for
turn off the spigot for a second.
Yes, for our brain to interpret and
and one of the earlier podcasts, one of the recent ones, and I'm not remembering the guest at the moment. He was talking about carving out space in his life for other things, and John was mentioning the kitchen that you guys are. Is that where you're seated?
We're looking down towards it. Yeah,
behind you there. Yeah.
And that resonated with me because, like I said about the Tuesday nights thing or about the fishing, I don't think that it's a question of like giving up that you're not going to be, I'm just not going to devote the kind of crazy time to this anymore. So I'm not going to develop as much as I could if I devoted more time. It's not linear like that.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding comes from different experiences. And even within your career, keeping nimble, like I've obviously had less feature film work, so I've done a deep dive into 2 epic albums over the last year. And so it's not something I would normally have time to do in that way. But you got to embrace that, what's in front of you. I was thinking of this silly saying today. People say, life gives you lemons, make lemonade. What else are you going to make? I mean, what the hell kind of, for real, like what choice do you have? Life gives you lemon, make roast beef. You know, that would be some shit right there, you know? So, and I'm not saying that my experiences are lemons with respect to the projects. I just mean, you do your best with what's happening at that moment. You find your joy in there. You find your path to bettering yourself, expanding yourself professionally, or any other way you can.
And look for meaning in it, which is why we're going to the desert this weekend. Is like we can get on mic and talk shit every week from here to eternity. I mean, we're good at it, right? It's easy for us to talk, but we're going out to ask some questions about what that Spider was referring to, this community, what we're really doing, what are we trying to do and as challenges arise for us personally or as a group or for the community, or what are our guiding principles? What are we actually? What's the change we're looking to affect? Not like, well, well, let's talk faster, let's talk slower, let's do longer episodes, let's do shorter ones. That's, as Michael would say, that's all
green,
form.
are we sure green?
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's the same thing in the work. If you can find the sort of underpinning sort of guiding principles in what you're trying to do, that the project may not have been something, a given record or a given studio we're building or whatever. It may not be the one you think, oh, I really wished I would do this one, but you find something in it that you can unlock.
And so it's about being engaged in a process and not being focused on the product, because the product is just a thing and left in the end. The process is your life,
Yeah.
And not to say that we don't want to make excellent products. We do, of course we do. That we're engaged in that on a moment-to-moment basis.
Yeah.
But not at the expense of, at least me, not at the expense of having an awful process all the time. And so here, I'll give you guys this. I haven't told Spider or anyone about this one, the second album I did. So I recorded an album with Danny Elfman, which was really excited, who I work with all the time. I mixed a few songs. That's all but done. I just got a ref delivered literally while we were getting started here. But then I'm back in the studio, and this is good, maybe a good way for me to say something about how I started out too, because it connects to that. Back in the studio with my dear friend Jorge Calderon, who is an incredible singer-songwriter who I met working with Warren Zevon on the second record I did with him, which was Warren Zevon's final record, which we made when Warren was diagnosed with cancer, with terminal cancer, lung cancer, and was told he only had a few months to live. And then we went right to work on a record. This was 2001. So it was a challenge. It was epic responsibility and an honor. And I was in way over my head in certain respects. I was 26, I don't know. But in other respects, I was absolutely the perfect person to be doing it for Warren. And Jorge, at a certain point, Warren really wasn't well enough to do much anymore. And so we went into a period where it was we weren't sure we were going to quite finish the record. We had half the songs, but we needed another half, and Warren wasn't coming out of his apartment. So Jorge and I went to work on these songs, and Jorge just, became my mentor in a way that Warren was already. And he taught me how to do the thing, man, the thing that almost nobody knows. And I don't mean to be too, it's a special thing. And it's this school of making music, of producing music in a very specific way, where everything is tended to with a degree of care that's really, as a young man, I found it borderline excruciating. Now it's like tending a Japanese garden or something. It's I adore it. It's doing it with him it's like, crafting a great sculpture you're not going to finish in your life or something, he knows so much he's played with everybody in the world. He wrote songs with everybody in the world. He's got he's done it all, toured. He knows so much. And his wife died from COVID this winter. And his wife was his world, man. She had a chronic illness, and he had been, sort of bound, not in a heavy way, but, she needed some care. So he was caring for her for so long that his life really kind of revolved around her. And he got it real bad too. He went down hard, such that he was having hallucinations, and he would take him half the day to realize what was real. It was, and his wife was gone. It was bleak. And I'm only now, as I'm saying this out loud, realizing how this is exactly the same thing. I got the phone call, I remember, in 2002. I was in my friend's backyard, and it was Warren. Noah. Hey, Warren, what's up? I just got back from the doctor. I got diagnosed with terminal cancer. I need to make an album. I need you to do it. Will you do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. And now I'm with Jorge, and we're on another mission, man. We're after a white whale. It's love songs to his wife, And these are the best songs. I mean, these songs, they're amazing. And we're crafting them like we get, like, first of all, like, we're going to live 400 years. And like, it's 100%. That's it. That's all there is. There's only one thing left in there when it's ready to go, and it's perfect, and that's it. And we're on this mission, and it's separate. I'm telling you, it's separate from commerce, and it's separate from publishing deals or any of that stuff. It's separate from bills and statements and tax considerations. We're after something else that's so much better than any of that stuff. And so, would I have asked to have scoring stop in Los Angeles, basically? And now we do it, and they're 6 feet apart. And I mean, the whole thing, my life has been turned upside down, It's been a drag. I would love to be there, man, with you guys. Why have I not, you know what I mean? Where were you all on Thanksgiving? But you have to find the thing that brings you joy, And if I can't find it in my crew that I've made working, and that awesome experience that we've, I think I knew it was awesome. I think I probably think it's even a little more awesome now. So I can't have that thing, but I've been given another opportunity, and I'm able financially and stuff to do it. So you take the leap of faith, And there were days when I feel crappy, man, and I don't want to do it. But I know it's like karmic medicine, It's clarity of purpose. It's, that none of the things that make me upset about my job or about the world exist there. None of them. And so you got to get in there. So you make yourself get in there, and then it's, it's valuable. But that's what I'm after, a white whale.
As you were speaking, I couldn't help but think about your family, and we spent time on Thanksgiving. What was it, 2 years ago now? And I hear you choking up talking about this story, and I'm just taking it all in. I can't help but think you're thinking about your family as well in this, and where might you be, if this situation was reversed?
Yeah.
I had a question about family, and just, it seems like you learn from the situations you're in. You really extract the meaning from it and apply it. And I'm wondering, with family, how has that shifted the way you work, the way you think, the way you perform, all of that?
Well, it's been a journey, I'll be honest with you, because there was a point when my career was not exactly what I wanted it to be, and I was irritated by that. And so I would often bring home that upset feeling, and I don't want to be too dramatic. I didn't abuse my family or anything like that, but you're not your best self, and being part of a family, you're not always going to be your dad, all the time, not only when you're your best self. So I understand that. But I learned eventually that that existing in that state of taking it out, which essentially is anger at myself, in my case. I think it often is for people like super highly motivated, ambitious, smart people like all of you are, might suffer from some of those feelings.
Oh, yes.
Just taking it out on yourself. As my brother used to say always to me, take it easy on yourself, man.
That's what my dad says every time I speak to him.
Yeah, so I learned over time to take it easy on myself. And I learned that letting myself be my true self, which isn't an upset person, I'm offering the best Noah. I'm offering the things that people want from me. And honestly, a big part of it for me, and like you guys, listen to the nature of this podcast. I'm an emotional guy. I observe people's emotions first. It's not intentional. I just do.
Yeah.
And, like the person at the checkout line at the grocery store, it's like I'm observing, that's what I notice. So managing your emotions in such a way that I think I always felt like it was a weakness, is what I told myself, is that it was my fault. It was something I had to cover up for. And eventually I realized it was the best part of myself. And so I had to cultivate that person who wants to be honest about how they feel and hear, hopefully, how you feel.
Yeah.
Or I'm just going to be miserable, and I'm not going to be the best person. I'm not going to be the best version of me that I can be. That to be true to myself, I have to be true to that. And what the people who are happy to be with me think is that's the thing about me that defines me.
Yeah, we've called that the superpower and the kryptonite all at the same time.
Yeah, right.
It's the thing that I think connects us in many ways. But it's also a sort of an ongoing struggle.
Of course,
I definitely hear what you're saying about bringing the work stress home and the sort of frustration at where you're at, or that stuff, and trying to manage that with kids and trying to model better behaviors, better coping mechanisms. Better.
The first tool I learned was this: hey, you know what? I'm upset because of something that happened at work.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we talk later?
Yeah. I did it to the guys at dinner last week. When we sat down, I think it was the first time I've ever done it with you guys. I was like, I'm in a shitty mood. None of this has anything to do with any of the three of you.
Yeah.
It's all me tonight. I'm bringing this to the table. If I snap at something, you say it. Hey, if you make a suggestion about tonight, and I'm like, no. It's me. It's just me. So, and I'm much better at doing that at home now as well with the girls.
Oh man, it's really hitting me. This, Noah, you may have heard we've been talking some about social ambiguity. And social ambiguity having an automatic sort of biological effect that over time can get down to the cellular metabolic level, right? And if one of us shows up somewhere sort of trying to hold it in, obviously we can't 100%, right? People get a vibe, and we are creating ambiguity by not acknowledging the thing, right? And so by just sitting down and being like, I'm in a funky mood and it has nothing to do with y'all, that is just stopping short that opportunity for that ambiguity to sort of creep in. And
better, giving people a chance to help. Like, yesterday on the text thread, I talked a bit about what we talked about at the top of the episode, and Michael checks in later and it's like, hey, let's talk. You want to get on the phone? What's up? How can I help here? And
it puts people on your team instead of them worrying about, are you upset with me? Are we on different teams right now? And you're like, no, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling bad.
Yeah.
And it happens.
And if you're feeling bad alone and hiding it, you're hiding yourself, right? So you're isolating yourself for some perceived benefit to the group when really everyone needs the opportunity to come together.
Yeah. Well, it's important, to give people room. People do this because they were taught how to do it. They were taught to keep this stuff in. This is not accidental stuff. This is people who are made feel that as children that their emotions
in our society,
were too much.
especially men. Men.
Oh,
yeah, definitely men. And
sure. And we end up, we try all the things when we're young, and the things that are effective in the short term, if no one's there to guide, like those are just what you default to.
Exactly. Yeah.
The effective short term things, despite the long term.
Yeah. So you want to be compassionate to yourself. You, the listener, one wants to be compassionate to oneself, to that these sort of behaviors, these ways that we mask or suppress our feelings, a lot of them we learned, and they because we had big feelings one day in a supermarket and our parents were not impressed, and they were like, you shut the fuck up and you be small and you be quiet and you stop being your true self right now. You know what I mean? And of course, there's an authentic lesson there for a kid too. You just can't do that. You can't live that way.
I don't want to know all of your authentic selves.
Fucking sour cream and you smash up Trader Joe's. That's not good. Yeah. But we internalize different lessons at different times. So I'm glad you said that, because it's definitely something I've been better at. I would say only in the last couple of years we've kind of turned a corner with it. It's become more habitual for me to sort of just point out to my wife that this is just me stuff. I'll
tell you the other thing I thought of when you were talking about feeling a little blue, thinking about your friend and things going on, and reminded me of a Zevon lyric that I often think of. The sky was on fire when I walked to the mill to pick up the slack in the line, and I thought of my friends and the troubles they've had to keep me from thinking of mine. And sometimes I know I go there. Like, you can get engaged in trying to help people as a metaphor for the help you want to get from the world. But it's also true, and I think valuable to remember, that helping makes you feel better.
Sure does.
And it's sometimes people don't want to receive help because of the same, I think, what you're talking about, Rory. The sense like you're a bad boy or bad girl. If
they don't want to burden you with it or whatever.
Yeah, you require help. Yeah. I got to help. No, I don't need any help. I can do it myself.
Yeah.
My room's all straighten up my room.
Yeah.
But to receive, everybody needs help sometimes. And sometimes it's good, even if, maybe you can manage it on your own, just to take it, because people feel better when they help people. It's like it's part of that community thing.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's part of that thing where you feel like, man, I'm in such deficit here. I need to give some to the situation. I'm in deficit. And so you need to feel that give, or else you don't feel like you've paid your dues. You're not, you know what I mean? And so
it needs to be a reciprocal relationship between individuals and groups. That's it.
I'm thinking back to when Rory called me when I was in New York, when I was still traveling, and was on the phone with me for hours. I mean, one night.
We had some good chats.
Hours. Probably 1 week we spoke like 6 hours or something.
Yeah.
And, to send him a text message last night to check in felt like a small order, you know, like,
but not small beer
No.
because it's meaningful.
Yeah,
right,
it was
right,
good.
exactly.
It was good. Yeah. It was good. And again, it's this sort of cycle of permission. It's permission again from you guys to talk about it, to bring that part of myself, to not feel like, oh, I got to be a pro, I got to show up, oh no, it's an important one, you know, I don't want to know, you know, it's like, I'm just, the gig that we do, we're trying to bring the whole thing to the table. And if we're, you know, there was early on, a good friend gave some pushback on the episode, and he said, you guys congratulate yourself an awful lot. You know, he was listening to the live. He's like, there's a lot of self-congratulation. And I was like, listen, I was like, you remember this week when we did this and this week when we did that? I was like, we're committed to like bringing our whole selves to the table. And some weeks we're high on ourselves. We're feeling it. And other weeks it's like not so much. So you're going to get both when that's what we're on. You know, and of course we're trying to make something people can listen to too. It's not we're not back to the 5-year-old in the
You
supermarket.
guys need a hype man.
They don't have fucking sour cream. Yeah. But
I was thinking about that today. I was working with Nathan, and I sent over like some copy that I wrote for a project we're working on. Like the fastest I ever have. We do this every month, and this was like just the fastest. He's like, you're firing on all 4 cylinders today. And I was like, you've seen me when I haven't been, and you've been there, and now you get to see me when I have, and you've also been there before. And it's like, and that relationship and that friendship exists on both sides. It's like when I'm not, either he can or the team can. And then when I am, it's like, I don't need to do anything, you know, just approve it, you know? And
yeah.
I think it works everywhere. It works in business. It works with friendships and business/friendships and everything in between.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot about this take it easy on yourself thing. And I think there are so many different ways you can approach it. And one of the ways I had the exact thought this morning, finishing my shower. And I realize I'm like telling myself off in a very aggressive way.
Oh man. Yeah, that's
know what
real
I'm saying?
talk. Yeah, the
And
things
I'm
you
like,
say to yourself.
If somebody else was telling me off, I would not tolerate this. I would think they were being aggressive. And
I spent a year actively changing just one thing. Get your lazy ass out of bed. That would be the first thought I'd have every morning. Get your lazy ass out of bed, man. You good for nothing. Get out of bed. You know? And now I have
that doesn't set the tone of the day right, I don't think.
it's a mean way to talk to yourself. Now you got to say,
mean.
hey, take a few minutes more if you need some rest, man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, and so like it's you know, it's taken a long time in our lives to get there, to recognize what this is. But if you think about, well, would Michael want this experience from me? Would Michael talk to me this way? Would Rory talk to me this way?
Yeah.
It's sort of easier when you're externalizing it, and I think eventually you do have to you do have to have that sort of mental hygiene thing going on, where you're that self-aware. But I think friends are a way in. You know, friends and family are a way in. It's like, would my mother want this for me?
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Would I make Michael drink coffee at 9 o'clock at night to keep going in the studio? Michael, just fucking buck up. But drink a coffee. Fuck your sleep. We got to get this thing done.
All right.
You wouldn't do that to a friend, but you do it to yourself
But
when you're in that
what
place.
I'm rounding the corner to is this idea of ritual, right? The toweling off. I can make a luxurious ritual out of this. And if it's something I can stick to, a practice I can stick to, it's a reminder, it's a symbol, it's sort of a symbolic, you know, so the pour over routine in the morning, right? There's, you know, I've been talking about certain objects and the role that design plays, like these Zalto wine glasses, the burgundy ones with a wide bowl. They are so lightweight, to hold them like brings your heart rate down. It like says, don't break me. It's like there's this delicate motion refining quality to the object. And, you know, I have a few of these things in my house that I use all the time, and they put the brake, they bring my attention back to where it needs to be, not me tumbling through the day in this sort of high energy sleepwalk. It's like you can bring focus and attention and awareness, and then because you are aware in the moment, you can, you know, remember to be compassionate, to like take care of yourself. I don't have like real great non-fluffy words to use to talk about it. I think there's sort of probably a more pragmatic way to describe it, but
well, it's self-compassion. I mean, that
it really is. But it's care. It's like you're, again, like taking care of yourself now is setting the conditions for a performance later.
Yeah, and it's what do you think it means? Because I used to think that taking care of myself, you know, and that I'm sure we'll all agree, you know, as a young guy, it's like, you know, that
indulgence,
I can't possibly, how could I possibly spend time taking care of myself when there's all these important missions to be involved in, you know?
I got to prove myself, man. Come on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think that it probably would have been true then, and it certainly is true now, that taking, you know, as I used to say to Greg, I'm not trying to make it to Monday. I'm trying to make it to 2065, you know, or 2045 maybe. So, you know, it's about pacing, creating a pacing that's where you can do great work, you know, and you can't, I don't think that it truly in the end benefits you. It's just diminishing returns. You're working less efficiently. You're working less inspired. You're making, in our business, you're making more mistakes, which is requiring more repairs and or just sloppy delivery, because there's just 80 billion I's to dot and T's to cross.
That's the erosion of values.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got it done. I'm impressed, you know, but if you had finished at 8 o'clock every night instead of 4 a.m., you know, I could be sure that it was all right.
I mean, from my experience, there was this desensitization, you know, where you just don't even realize how you feel anymore. You know, it's like, am I tense? I don't know. I'm always this way. You know, it's like there's so much noise in the system that you don't notice your sort of ups and downs.
Yeah, I have to go back 25 years to get to a place where there was, like, there's a threshold of tension and sort of anxiety. You know, it's like I have to go back to being a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old until to get below that.
Yeah,
you know, it definitely becomes habitual and sort of normalized.
It's all starting to look like a disease of isolation. All of it.
Yeah, I think there's isolation, and the other thing, you know, to tie it to Noah's scout troop is the lack of clarity around you. I mean, you talk about sort of social ambiguity, but sort of ambiguity of achievement or goal ambiguity. So, you know, we celebrate Elon and Bill Gates and, you know, whoever, right? They're amazing people who've achieved amazing things. But they're, you know, we talk about in our work, mapping the terrain. There are these people who forge ahead into unmapped terrain and new problems, you know, and that's great, and they've won. But there's a billion casualties, people who went out there and didn't win, and who burnt the midnight oil and didn't get the prize. But what I'm thinking of is, you know, you in the scout troop, at least as I understand it, it's like you have, you know, you're getting your badges, your merit badges, and there are defined goals. The work to reach the goal is understood. You do the work, and
it's episodic.
Yeah, episodic, and you get it's recognized, and it's defined, and it's noted, and there's structure to it, as opposed to, you know, I think if you took 100 of our friends and co-workers in the music space and tried to define what the merit badge they're looking for next is, like, some of them can articulate. I mean, I definitely speak to some people and they're like, I just want a fucking Grammy. And it's like, kind of good on you. It's weird, but okay. Like, at least it's a thing. You know, talk to me the Monday after you win it, and then we'll see where you're at. But there's so much sort of, it's so nebulous, it's so amorphous and kind of hard to get a hold of what it is you're aiming for, that it's very hard to know when you're done, in a given day. It's very hard to know, if you're working towards this unarticulated or poorly articulated goal, how do you know, Rory, start walking, when should I stop? Well, I don't know. Where am I going?
What can
I don't know.
a sense of accomplishment be based on? And from what does one derive self-esteem?
So something that, when you work on records you don't love, something that matters to me a lot, because, you work on records you love. Today was a great record. Last week maybe there was a record that wasn't so great. What you take pride in is the fact that you brought your best game to the record, regardless of what came in the door. That's like how I can go home and go, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I've at some point said it, but it may as well get it on the podcast. I got my 3-step, tips to success for me. It's very simple. Do a good job, act right, go home. If I've done all 3 of those things, I've had a successful day. And it's very definable. And if any one of those things didn't happen, I need to do the work to repair that. I need to make that right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Wow, there's so much in there.
Yeah.
In so few words, Noah. That's very distilled.
Can you say that one more time, Noah?
Yeah.
Do a good job, act right, go home.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
an episode title.
That's Big Sky
Country. That is not an episode title. That is the episode title. Yeah. I just called it.
Done.
That's the kind of language we're in love with, which is just this distilled poetic. That says a lot. And
so much.
What that means is that, if the session didn't go well, if the mission wasn't accomplished, if you've done your bit as best you can on a given day, then the rest, there are things that are out of our hands.
The rest is learning.
The what I can do is my best professionally and my best, as a person. And then I need to go home because it's just work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not your work.
And that one I probably learned that one first, and that was another one Warren taught me. I'm sure I've told you this story, Spider, about, I may as well tell it. When I first started working for Warren on the first record we worked on, this is a good story because this relates to some of the things I was thinking about after listening to Tony's podcast. I thought that one of the people there, that was an in-person one, asked this excellent question about the role of being on the cutting edge of some technology as an entree into sort of making a name for yourself or making a niche for yourself. I realized that probably was true of my career, and that when I started, we definitely were doing projects to tape, but it was very quickly that things were going to Pro Tools, and I got up on it quick, and all the old guys knew tape, and so I was suddenly thrust into more prominent position than I might have been otherwise, because everyone was interested in doing that, and working in Pro Tools. So that was how I met Warren. Zevon was that he had bought a Pro Tools rig from West LA Music, and the guy over there was my buddy. It's like, oh, you got to help me. Warren's having trouble with this thing. Go over there and help him. So, I ended up engineering and mixing that record that he was starting at that point, and that was how Warren and I got to know each other. We became great friends. However, we were not great friends at first. At first, he liked me not at all. And that was palpable and obvious. Like he needed me. He recognized that I was smart and capable, but wasn't interested in being my buddy or not, kind of crushing me here and there. Which is what he does. There was crushes. It wasn't just me. Trust me, So I already am dating my now wife, Julie. We lived together at that point over in West LA. And so some night I'm working at Warren's. It's getting late for me already. Even then, I wasn't that into late nights. So it was like 10:30, you know? It was 11 or something. Yeah, it's about, obviously I want to get out of there. So he's like, all right, get the fuck out of here. Get in my car, tired, hit some favorite on my phone, which I think is my wife. Don't listen at all to what the voicemail says. Just hear some voicemail, blah, 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 and leave a message for my wife. What I actually dialed was Warren's cell phone.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so Warren, his symbol is a skull smoking a cigarette. That's like his logo, right? Okay.
The plot thickens.
This is a guy who is famous for saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead, you know? And this is the message I left more or less on his voicemail. Hey, babe, coming home. I love you. It was a long day. Don't stay up for me. Love you a lot. Bye. You know, it was pretty boring, but definitely embarrassing. You know, and like I said, I was probably 24, 25. I mean, I got there the next day. I didn't realize. Warren walks in, he's looking at me funny, you know, something on his mind. So you left me a message last night. Oh, I say, you got that message. My wife didn't. I realized that. And I'm just like, I must have been white. I was standing beside myself. I mean, I was so mortified. This guy is like a rock and roll, like he used to do karate on stage, man. Chuck Norris's brother was on the tour to teach him karate to do on stage, you know? And I left like a fuzzy love message on his, and kind of pathetic too. Not even like manly or anything. Like
little tail between your legs, maybe.
Yeah, like, hey, honey, I'm coming home. Yeah. And he's like, wait, don't say anything. Wait. I'm really, really glad that you left that message on my voicemail. And he said, I thought you wanted to get out of here because you wanted to go party like every other 24-year-old I've ever known in my entire life, like I would have wanted to do. He said, I had no idea that you were going home to your girlfriend. He said, listen to me. I used to not leave the studio because if I left the studio, then I had to realize that I had no life outside the studio. He said, when the time comes every day, go home. When you're done, go home. We'll finish the next day.
So good.
And from then on, our relationship was 180. All of a sudden, he was my mentor, and I was king of the world. Yeah. Because when he liked you, you were king.
So accidental honesty sort of opened the door. But he got the measure of you. He saw who you were, or sort of how you were wired, or you know, maybe a value set that he didn't have an insight into before.
All of it.
It was an opportunity, to make up for the thing he had despoiled in his own life. You know, he hadn't gone home. His first wife, left. And the kid, and you know, and he said, I don't want that for you.
It's fatherly advice.
Yeah.
And like I said, up 12 hours before, he didn't really like me that much. You know?
Until he got to know you better.
Well, I think that he thought I was a hot shot. I mean, his nickname for me, everybody was something boy. Snook boy, this boy, that boy. I was fancy boy.
Noah was fancy boy?
Fancy boy.
Damn.
Because like I had to bring in the Lavery converters for our string session. And I always had, and the HD Pro Tools was new, and I had to use that huge dick. He'd say, oh yeah, we need the huge dick Pro Tools.
Huge dick Pro Tools?
HD.
That's a fucking...
HD, I like it.
Yeah, like that places it in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 3 rules are important, and they're simple and they're actionable. And they don't really just apply to mixing.
No,
they're the same 3 rules
the
my
whole
son
thing.
should follow when he goes to school. And it was talking to my act right, that simple one, came from being a dad. Act right, man. It's not, and it's, check it out. A bunch of times you're gonna be asked, I'm asking you, collectively, we're asking one another
Yes.
to act right even when everybody else isn't.
Yeah.
And it's not fair. It's not fair. But we're going to do it anyway.
Do a good job, act right, go home. I can't get that out of my head. I'm going to be thinking
solved the
about
world.
that for weeks.
Yeah.
Definitely days. I'll give you that. Most likely weeks. Noah, you are a pleasure to be around and a pleasure to have here. Your stories have been illuminating and helpful and honest, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, I adore you guys. I wish I could be there with you. I miss John. I would have loved to share his thoughts tonight. I can't wait to soon be together, all together, and feel all the things, the different things that you feel collectively when you're together. I admire you guys for what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, dude.
Thanks
so
man.
much.
That means a lot.
I'm going to go home.
Yeah. I am home. He's like, I am home. Yeah.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrigg brothers.